Hey, ladies.
Woo!
Hello.
Welcome to the Hoops Talk.
Open it up.
Wow. Gosh, I can't believe it's going to be a 3-day weekend because every day just melds.
Where was April?
It's been a 2-month-long weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been weird to say the least.
True.
Karen, how are you doing back there? I see you have a fire going on in your background.
There's literally a fire going on in SF as we speak, and we are hot in here.
Oh, you got a disco inferno happening out in the theaters.
The roof
Oh,
roof is on fire.
I heard it.
Great karma.
Oh, right. Oh, shh. Take it back. How are you doing with the new moon in Gemini?
Gemini is my rising and moon sign, so I think I'm
God.
going to excel in this age.
You know what? I'm going to do sign of the cross right now.
In nomine
Gemini.
Padre.
Yeah. Gemini. Nah.
Nah.
I cannot. I worked with a Gemini, and
Oh,
let's
yeah.
just say that was not the most pleasant of experiences. Well, keep the fires down there, Karen, and stay safe. Kendall, how are you? I see you're in the mountains of Utah or something.
I'm in the Red Rocks of Utah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How's it going there?
It's going. Just hanging with the fam.
How is the weather there?
It was actually pretty cool this week, but it's supposed to get hot as balls again, so whatever. I don't even know. But
Man.
How's LA?
Well, I'm holding it down for everybody in LA,
Yes.
Got our masks, making some potato salad. I'm gonna make like a bunch of foods that would be eaten at like a summer picnic or at a barbecue, and just eat them on the sofa with pajamas on.
Yes,
Like
windows wide open.
You mean you're not going to go to the beach like everybody else in the freaking city?
Oh, shit.
Absolutely not. I know my background is a beach, but before we started, I don't like beaches. I've never been a fan. It's dumb. So, I'll stay over the beaches, leave the beaches to the people that all of a sudden we have a bunch of beach bums. And so I'm
and
like,
surfers,
okay.
like, where'd y'all come from?
Like, cool. Fine. Yeah, they can have the beaches. No, I prefer to have my picnic on the couch wearing pajamas. So, I mean, in reality, this is kind of like a high point, like, of my lifestyle.
Right?
It's a healthy lifestyle.
Everyone's bitching about quarantine. And I'm like, this is kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah, seriously. I like cracked open a claw and watched like some funny shows, some funny movie last night. I mean, I do miss sports. I'm glad we have this.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this. We're keeping it going. So we shall see. But we do have a guest today.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Super excited. She's in our virtual waiting room, so we're going to bring her on shortly. It's part of our Women Crush Wednesday segment.
Crushing it.
I'm really, really excited because I'm hoping, in addition to like her talking about her career journey, I have some topics that I wanted her to go over with us. Mm-hmm. Use her legal mind to help us.
Some timely topics.
Yeah, I would say so. So she's going to come on. But before we do that, as always, I'm going to do a little house cleaning. So let me get into that. So as always, you want to remember to please subscribe, like, and review. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Pandora, iHeartRadio, Overcast. I mean, we are RSS everywhere.
Oh, RSS everywhere.
And look, if you subscribe, I don't know how many times I need to say this. This is the hottest tip that you're going to get in all 2020.
Hot tip.
Hot tip. If you subscribe, then you will be alerted when a new episode is available for you to listen to. So you don't have to be like worrying, like, oh, has the Hoops Talk come out yet? You'll get notified. Push notifications. Even if you download or if you listen to us on the Good News Radio app, it has push notification. It tells when we're live, and that is really helpful so that you know when you can go and listen to a fresh episode hot off the presses.
Because no one knows that it's Wednesday 6:30 p.m. when it is Wednesday
No.
6:30 p.m. because it's the
No.
same day. It's Groundhog's Day
Yeah.
all week.
Well, if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's almost like we're an essential because we're telling you what time it is.
True. It's the middle of the week. Halfway to
It's a
Friday.
Wednesday 6:30, and you need to, and the Hoops Talk is on. So we are actually providing a skill. We're providing essential for you to remember what day and time it is where you're at. So
We're RSS essential.
there you go. We're just going to put it out there. We are essential. So subscribe. That is really important. We also have a YouTube channel, and it is awesome because you get to see our beautiful faces, our sometimes harrowing backgrounds like Karen, the song fire.
Jesus.
And you also get to see our guest faces. You get to see them, and it's a lot of fun putting those up. And so, yeah, if you subscribe, and you'll get to see the premiere of the show. So,
Premiere.
and you can chat.
Mhm.
You can actually chat in the premiere function of YouTube, which I went on, and you went on. You chatted, Karen. But yeah, that's available. So YouTube has actually been super amazing. So check us out there. You can subscribe. And then our social handles, we are on Twitter and Instagram at The Hoops Talking, and we're on TikTok at The Hoops Talk Podcast. Liz Lapp, in her 40s, made my first TikTok ever on our TikTok. It did well. I think
Yeah.
How many views you got?
How many views?
I got over 250 views.
Damn.
Hey, there you go.
So I did a duet. So I don't know if you know that feature where you have someone else's TikTok. I know. I was like, I didn't just record myself or,
Gotcha.
my husband, sneak up on my husband or something. I actually did a function in the platform. I know.
There you go.
But I will say that I ran it by our intern because he is I don't just throw content up there without consulting our Hoops Talk intern. So he approved it. He laughed, and he didn't think his auntie was lame. So
Oh, there you go.
I think coming from a soon
Met
to
the
be
criteria.
coming from a soon to be 14-year-old and heading into high school, it's the highest praise I could get right now.
Oh,
So that happened. So if you go to TikTok, we're the Hoops Talk Podcast, and you can follow us and see what our Hoops Talk intern is doing. So that's all I have, unless Karen, you have, or Kendall, you guys have any updates or anything you want to throw out?
nada.
If not, we're going to go ahead and bring on our Women Crush Wednesday guest next. Hi, Kelsey. Welcome to the Hoops Talk.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for today's Women Crush Wednesday, we have our special guest, Kelsey Trainor, who is an entertainment lawyer at Abrams Media, a producer and a sports writer. And you're a fierce advocate for fairness in sports, especially when it comes around to women in sports. And welcome to the Hoops Talk. We can't wait to learn more about you and what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome. So I actually started to learn more about you through Twitter, as crazy as that is.
Twitter is my jam. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Okay, good.
Jam. Yeah.
So as we've started to do more, doing the Hoops Talk, the podcast, connecting through Twitter has been a huge component to who we are finding as guests and who we're finding as fellow supporters and allies for what we're doing. And that's how I found you and started reading what you're doing. And I read a lot of the pieces that you put out there on Mediate. Also your podcast, was it calling Game On?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I was really interested, and I wanted you to come on to our show. I talked to the co-hosts. I'm like, this would be great to have you on. So what we'd love to hear is what has been your career journey as a sports fan, and as how you've decided what it is that your focus has been when it comes to sports, and just kind of take us through just your career journey, because our audience would love to know how you become you.
Yeah, so it's going to be a bit full circle, and there's going to be some twists and turns in there. I went to college for political science. Didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated from college, so I ended up coaching college basketball. I used to coach high school basketball while I was in college, so I coached at a Division III school just outside of Philadelphia, and decided I wanted to go to law school. So went to law school. Kind of had to give up coaching because of that. Still did coach some AAU stuff. And then I practiced law in Philadelphia for about 2.5 years in like the civil area. I clerked for a judge. I worked for the insurance commissioner of a bunch of states. Nothing related to sports or entertainment or, really anything fun. But I will have to say, I learned a lot. I liked it. And everything was good, right? Like everything was good. I had a good job, a place to live, this and that. I'm in Philadelphia, my hometown. And I get a call one day from a friend of mine who's a producer on the on the show Blue Bloods. He just calls me up and he's like, "I think you should come work for me." I'm like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" And he was like, "Yeah, like, come work for me." His assistant had left and for a different job, and he was like, "I'll put you in every room. I'll put you, introduce you to every board member, every this and that." And so I thought about it. I talked to the judge that I was clerking for and my law firm boss, and they were like, "You got to do it because your fallback plan is that you're a lawyer." So I went from having an assistant to being an assistant. I moved to New York probably May 2018, and just went right in, like, really a crash course, thrown right into the fire of Blue Bloods, which is a season show. It's been around for now 10 years, right. And it was really interesting because I'd walk into a room and I know that everybody in that room thought that I was there for a different reason. Okay. And just let people use their imaginations of why they thought I was there. And then as soon as they met me, and I would say, I have to give so much credit to my boss, Dave, because he would be like, "You got to talk to Kelsey. She's so smart. She's a lawyer." He literally went up to Tom Selleck and was like, "Tom, she's a really good one." Right. Same thing. Donnie Wahlberg, like all these people. So I would walk in, and after a few months there, these people became my friends, the cast, the crew. And then I learned so much about the entertainment industry because he had an overall deal with CBS. So we were also pitching shows, working with agents and this and that. Kept my law license active. So through there, now I'm just going to kind of pause there because none of that has to do with sports yet.
Yeah, no, that's great. You'll be surprised how like similar it has nothing to do with sports, and then it's all sports.
Exactly. Yeah. And then so probably I worked there for 6 or 7 months. And through that, I got an opportunity at a talent agency to go and work there. And, they were great, but I ended up having to come back to Philadelphia for family reasons. So I didn't stay at the job because I couldn't really know when I was coming back. Right. And went back to New York after a few months, maybe February, March of 2019. Yeah, last year. It feels like forever ago.
Wow.
And
different world.
Right. And I applied for a few different jobs. I started my own PR and like branding company. I like worked with some minor like athletes and people on Broadway and actors, just through different connections that I had made through opportunities and places that I had been. And I just was looking for something steady. I was getting rejected from like being a person to work at the counter of a Pure Bar studio, right?
Wow.
I had a law degree and this and that, and it was, so it was a lot of downs. And then I applied on LinkedIn for a job for business development at Abrams Media. And I walk in, and it's run by Dan Abrams from ABC News and Live PD. And he kind of looks at my resume. He's like, "I just thought it was so interesting, right? You're a lawyer who worked in entertainment, like kind of what's happening." And I got the job there. And instead of just being business development, I ended up being their in-house counsel, business and legal affairs.
Wow.
And so, that's kind of the journey. Again, nothing to do with sports yet.
Right.
And so a colleague of mine there named Amba, she played softball in college, and we talk sports all the time. And she just said to me one day, she's like, "I want to start a sports podcast." And I was like, "All right, well, they're hard to monetize, right? Like, but let's sell it. Like, let's figure out a way that we can make them like, or at least let us do it." So we figured, let's start writing articles that coincide with the podcast. And the site Mediate, is fairly popular and gets good numbers. So we just started doing that. And the first one we did was about, Alex Morgan sipping tea and getting, blasted by the media and the world for that. And it was just about, the bias in the media and how that's covered versus, a male tennis player saying he wanted the entire stadium to blow up. And that was cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So it kind of started off that way. And then, me being myself, kind of coming back full circle, always loved sports, loved playing it, loved coaching it, loved being around it. And then volunteering with some organizations like Play Like a Girl and keeping young girls involved in sports. So that's just kind of where it started. I started writing like July 2019. Last year was our first everything. And then, got to interview some cool people and, this and that. And from there, it's just been so fun, and started writing at other places, Equalizer Soccer and Forbes and all that stuff. And so that's kind of my full circle journey that, went a lot of zigs and zags for sure.
And are you finding that writing in sports, what is the draw for you? Like why, of all this like journey, because I mean, you worked on Blue Bloods, which is still going.
Right.
You could have gone the entertainment route. It's ripe for you. And especially as a lawyer, entertainment lawyer, why go as a woman to, let's be honest, not the easiest. You didn't pick the easiest of the lanes you could have been doing.
Yeah.
So why do you then decide like, okay, you're just full force. You're like, sports is going to be it.
It's, I can't write on something, one, that I'm not knowledgeable about. Like, I don't like to speak on stuff that I'm not knowledgeable about either. And two, that I don't feel passionate about. And so sometimes that's in entertainment, sometimes that's in sports, but it just, there was a lot coming out. And I almost kind of had this like reawakening of, relearning Title IX and everything that goes along with that. And talking about college athlete pay. And there's when there's a sense of just unfairness and, injustice, I don't know, maybe that's why I became a lawyer. It gets to me. And so I try to stick to my sports law niche, but at the same time, like, because I worked in entertainment, like, I like storytelling. I like the things that make people feel like they are not alone, that other people out there can relate to them. And so that's kind of why sports, because I think it's a microcosm of society. I think that any issue you see in the sports world, when there's gender discrimination in sports, I experienced the same thing in the law. Like, I once had a judge come up to me in the courthouse and like pinch my cheeks, right? Like,
what?
I know. And I stepped back and I said, don't ever touch me. Like, but those are things like people would come into court and they would shake my 6'2" intern hand, but they wouldn't shake my hand because they didn't think I was the law clerk. They thought he was.
Wow.
So it's the same thing, and it's the same level of kind of disrespect and unfairness that are just inherent everywhere. And sports is, it's people pay attention to it. So that's kind of why I gravitate towards there, and plus I just like it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, we've always said that sports is basically a cultural. It's like a canary in a coal mine. Like, you see things that happen in sports, and it's indicative of a bigger either issue or challenge or opportunity.
Right.
And as you can with the pandemic, how much more sports is meaning to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally evident right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone's going crazy.
And how are you doing? How are you doing with, because being on the East Coast is a hot spot. How are you coping, from your day to day with the pandemic and the coronavirus, and how is that affecting you with your sports writing and the topics and what you want to cover?
I feel very fortunate. I'm very privileged. I have a house over my head, and I'm healthy, and I have food. So I don't really have any complaints. I got out of New York City right kind of in the beginning, which was good because that was a little bit stifling. But, I don't have any complaints. In terms of sports writing, I try to not take money from publications right now because, I have a job as a lawyer. And so I'm very fortunate to have that job that, we're doing well. And I know a lot of people in the sports world, that's not the case. So I just, and again, I'm not out there on a beat. I'm not writing every single dance. I'm only writing on something that kind of happens in the news or if something sparks my interest. So, it's been fine. I would say the last few weeks I've been a bit uninspired, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It seems like there's just the same storyline kind of coming up over and over again. We've felt the exhaustion from that as well.
Right, for
like
sure.
what type
Hopefully,
of ball the NBA is using.
I know, right?
That was a
Right.
newsbreaker.
That was big, and Diana Taurasi came out somewhere and said that she wants the WNBA to go back to like using the same ball as the NBA. I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
groundbreaking.
Wow.
Yeah, love that. All right.
Everyone was
let's go.
eating it up too.
Right. It was on Gino's Instagram Live, I think. The two of them were talking about. He was like, "What's one thing you would change?" She's like, "I don't understand why we don't use the same ball as the men. Like, come on." So, yeah, breaking news.
Yeah,
right.
Ballgate.
Right. Exactly.
Ballgate.
Sure.
I wanted to also talk to you about, I know you're a colleague and a friend of yours is Ari Chambers, and she's awesome. I hope we can get her on Women Crush Wednesday soon. But she tweeted out something that it caused like a good thread. Well, she's always causing thread
Right.
news, right?
She loves it. Yeah.
She loves the thread
the mess.
drama.
Yeah, she loves the mess. Shout out Ari.
So one of the things that she tweeted out, it just hit me like so like a warm hug. She wrote, it's very confusing to me how we fight for more women's coverage, but when the smaller companies, platforms reach out to do things, they get denied. This has to stop. It really does. How do you think that can be changed? Because, you have, you've been able to write and, we all go through this journey, but there is like so weird how we're trying to write for the WNBA, we're trying to do something for the WNBA, and it's so much more hurdles than saying like, hey, Kelsey, would you come on to our show? Or, hey,
right.
All these other people that we're finding through Twitter or, through the other outlets. Why do you think that is? And how do you think that can go away, that friction?
I mean, listen, I've experienced exactly what Ari is talking about. I mean, I've had some people, just not return emails or this and that. And I'm sitting there thinking like, I'm about to put your player or your whatever on this national website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mediate is, for better or for worse, all the presidents, past, present, future, tweet about it, right? It's a massive platform. I'm about to put you on that platform and there's just no response. I can't do anything to change whoever is in charge there. There is something about this, like kind of the old guard and protecting, who gets access. I don't have time for that. The same way that there's so many people in the men's world and men's sports who are doing interviews, this and that. It should be the same for women. And I think it's a little bit, I think social media is great because it kind of is, it takes away some of those middle people where, some of the agents who are unresponsive, many of them are great, but some are just unresponsive. Gives you an opportunity to directly talk to the player, just shoot them and, respectfully, of course.
Right.
That's how I've had to go about it a lot of times. Any interview I do, it's very rarely through an agent. It's usually me reaching out to the person through, a connection or I know them, just asking. Right. And that is also something that just because I've been fortunate to be in some places, like Ari invites me to this event or I'm at this event and just happen to meet people and make those relationships and continue them. But it's problematic. I don't know. I don't have the answer other than people in the positions of power and access need to just kind of step back and check their egos,
Right.
Because there's just no reason. And somebody said something the other day, like maybe an agent or this or that. And it was like, oh, well, this player, this company isn't like a big enough name. And it's like, no, you're not doing your job if you can't market something in a way to, instead of them being the story, you make the story, tell the story, like, create the narrative. So what it's not Serena Williams. If there's a story about some, female athlete who's working 4 jobs and this and that, make that big. Like you have to do your job to set that up. So, the people just need to check their egos. It's a thing for sure. It's and it's so frustrating, and I feel frustrated. Sometimes I have to text Ari to tell me not to tweet something like that.
Hold me back.
Yeah, we have.
I know. She's always like that. She's like, oh, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, we've talked about having a lot of tweets in draft mode, and and then you just have to delete it.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, because it's interesting because you would think if ESPN is only and I pick on ESPN because they're kind of like the mecca for this, but if ESPN is going to be very selective, then find other avenues.
Yeah, and it's very selective, and they have this monopoly and on the sports world, and it's it's good, they do a lot of good things, but why are we not seeing, at least the agents and the people who can grant that, why are we not seeing the opportunity to take kind of that power out of their hands and put it into some different people? And also, like, do they not realize what it does to the come up of some of these young women requesting these interviews? And you not giving it to them, like by you giving it to some big name person, right? They're good, they do that all the time. You give it to somebody who is from a smaller platform and you're helping their career, right? That's what women are supposed to be doing, building each other up. And so I think that's the problem too, is like, why aren't you helping out some of these young people who are putting in the work,
right?
And covering games and beats and this and that for like no money.
Right.
Come on, like let's help each other out here.
Agreed. And how do you think that, so one of the things that we talk about too is we feel that there's a lack of men who are allies. We find, that we're always saying like women supporting women. We try to support women. We hope that, we get support. Where are the men in this? And how is there a way, or is there a script we can write for them so that they feel like they can still support us and yet still hold on to whatever it is that makes them not support us? What can happen? Do you have any idea?
I think it's twofold. I think there are a lot of men out there who say they support women and women's sports and the come up, and they don't. They actually restrict access. And so that's kind of a hard thing to spot, but it's out there. And I have to say, like, some of the biggest advocates for me in the sports world have been men. Like Jay Billis, we had him on the podcast that we did, and I literally just emailed him, lawyer to lawyer. I was like, I look up, he's on TV, emailed him. He must have responded during commercial break. He's like, sure, I'll come on tonight. It was wild. I'm sitting there like blown away because it's Jay Billis. I'd never met him before, and he just responded to my email saying, sure, I'll come on tonight. Right. And so from that, afterwards we chatted and like had all gone out to dinner. And he was like, anything you need, just ask me. He's like, if I can't do it, I'll just say no, but just ask me. He's like, and I said the same thing. Anything you need, family, friend, people that want jobs in entertainment, this and that. If I can help out, I will. And so the same thing, he shares every article I post. He gives me advice on, stuff like that. I mean, David Barry from The Economist, like he's somebody who's out there sharing my stuff and promoting me all the time. So I will say that there are some really genuine men out there in positions of power. I think sometimes it's like, I'll give people credit. It's like, you can't take every cause, right? Like you can't support everything. And so I know a lot of people get on LeBron James sometimes and like, he could be doing more this and that. Like, dude's doing a lot, right? Like,
he like built a school.
He built a school. And so maybe he's not doing like the as active and vocal as Kobe or this and that, but like there's only so much time and energy you can devote to things. So I try to give some people, the men in positions of power, benefit of the doubt. But to what you're saying, I mean, some people are just not prepared to take the flack, or they're not educated enough to respond to the criticism. And so that's where it's like, all right, just hit us up. We'll tell you. We'll give you. We'll DM you the answers so you can sound good. We don't care. We don't want the credit. Just start speaking up and using your platform for it.
Honestly, honestly, we should have like a Google Doc that is shared. And then every time.
Male allyship club. You just
Yeah.
here's info. You want some talking points? We got them for you.
Totally.
Skulls.
Yes.
But like,
yes.
how sad is it that we have to keep doing the work in order for them to do that, right? Like,
Right.
that's
I mean, it's just classic.
how it always
you know?
is. Like, we
It's
put
like
in the work.
you just gotta make them think it's their idea. You know,
Right.
Right.
At this point, I don't care how it gets done because the more we move along, the more we progress. You know, things will get better. That's how progress is, step by step. Unfortunately, it's not these massive leaps and bounds that we wish it was.
Yeah, I know. It's like, whew, it's a lot of steps.
For sure. Right.
But I definitely want to switch into I wanted to use your legal brain to discuss some sports legal topics. But before we do that, we'd love to have you share like a hot tip or something that if someone's listening right now to you who wants to become either a lawyer or a sports writer or a sports lawyer, however, what is something that they can do or take away that from your insights to help them in their career?
Right. I'll say my secret weapon is, I'm not the smartest person in any room. I'm not the most talented person in any room, but I just treat people well, just in general. And, I think people can spot people who treat people differently based on who they think they are. And that's a big problem in any industry where status or whatever matters. People won't talk to you or won't respond to you because they don't think that you're somebody.
Right.
And so if you just treat people well, I just believe in good karma, and it's worked for me. Just be nice to people, take interest in people in general, because people are so interesting. And 5 years down the line, you might get a phone call from them because they may end up being your boss, So, I mean, that's my end goal.
Yeah.
My end goal is to just surround myself with super smart people, and, hopefully they'll let me carry their bags. But that's the tip that people are missing. I think it's like genuineness and authenticity, and just be kind to people. I mean, the myth of the nice girl is like a thing, and it's, just be nice. It works out.
I love that.
Love it.
I love it. That's such a good advice. A lot of people don't value just something as simple as just being nice. So,
right. And it's like, that you text, check in with somebody here or there. And, people will say, oh, you're brown nosing, or, oh, you just want this person for that. Do you know how many, there's so many people or this or that, or opportunities that I have not taken or not happened. But it just, it's human connection. And that's really the secret, I think, to business. You're going to have successful people who aren't like that. But I think that they're the outliers, and people that are really successful, are the people who treat other people well.
That's a good hot tip. Everybody listening, that's a great hot tip. Be nice.
Yep.
Be nice.
Be nice. Wash your hands.
Not that tough.
I'm just going to throw that one in there. I'm just throwing that one out there.
Wash your hands, wear your mask, be nice.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we're going to switch gears because, like I said, I know when I first reached out to you, I was like, I had been reading through a few of these topics. Some sports legal stuff was happening. And I'm like, you know what? Let me reach out to Kelsey because she is a lawyer and she writes about sports, and she could maybe unpack some of these bigger things, right? So right off the top, super hot, the U.S. women's national soccer team. Right?
I think that was everyone's collective response.
Was it the judge that pinched your cheek that made that judgment? Because I mean,
right. Yeah. So just some background of the latest thing. The latest that happened was that both parties filed for summary judgment, which is just a way to get the case kind of dismissed, all or parts of it, before a trial happens. It's basically, here's all the facts that we have at this point. All of these facts applied to this law means there's no possible way a jury could decide opposite. And so that's what happened in this case. The judge dismissed the U.S. women's national team, the players. He dismissed their Equal Pay Act claims, which is the base of the entire thing, essentially, right? It was the equal pay chance that was happening. And he also dismissed the compensation part of their Title VII claim, which is gender discrimination. So it's very similar. They usually go hand in hand.
Okay.
What does remain is Title VII claims as they relate to their travel, so the difference in travel and the player personnel that's provided to the teams. So the training staff and medical staff, stuff like that. So I would say that my first reaction when that summary judgment, when that came down, it was a Friday news dump. And I was like, I was upset, as a woman first and foremost, I was like, wow, this is a blow. And it felt like such a huge blow.
Absolutely.
And I know, pretty much everyone else. And then I had to kind of take the night and read through it because I just couldn't even write on it. I was just kind of, I couldn't even do it. It hurt.
Yeah.
And then I've looked at it more. I've dissected it more. I've talked to a lot of people about it. And I have maybe 2 or 3 points after the fact that I really feel about it now. One is that I really don't think that we should discount the kind of quality of life parts of the lawsuit that remain, right? Like everyone's kind of like, oh, they lost their suit, this and that, right? But the things that still remain are things that have to do with what women have been fighting for so long. And that's in terms of, having equal flights, having hotel rooms. I mean, analysis of like, it makes a difference if you are staying in a room with 3 different people before the World Cup, or you have your own room. Is someone snoring next to you, right? Do you have leg room on a flight?
Yeah.
Training, their safety. So
Absolutely.
all those things are very important, and I think they matter. And I think we shouldn't discount that because everywhere, even the WNBA, their collective bargaining agreement that they just got, those were a lot of the things that they fought for.
Yeah.
And so that's one. And two, I think that even though they kind of lost the battle, I think that they're going to win the war because U.S. soccer has done so much damage to their image, right? We all know that. They argued that the women are inferior by birth and therefore they should be paid less. So, it turns out that's not, the best route to go.
Yeah.
So you've got that whole, that whole aspect of it.
Yeah.
And when you think of U.S. soccer, you only think of the women. I mean, I literally can't name a player on the men's team.
No.
And
No.
I'm educated enough in sports, but I don't know. I don't know somebody. I think I remember Landon Donovan. That was a long time ago.
A long time ago.
That's wild.
And so, progress, like we were talking about before, how progress is made kind of step by step. I think one of the things that the judge did in this case is he gave them a step-by-step process to organize their next collective bargaining agreement so that if it is unequal in the future, they would win a claim, right? He said, you can't compare these 2 collective bargaining agreements. The women have one that has, higher overall pay, less bonuses, but they have severance. They have these extra things. The men have one that is lower pay, but they have these bonuses that are performance-based, et cetera. And the judge was like, you can't compare these 2 things. But now what can you do next? You can negotiate. Their 2021 is when their collective bargaining agreement is up. You can negotiate a new agreement and you can structure it exactly like the men's agreement. And guess what? My guess is that they're going to be paid less than the men based on the men's agreement. And then what do? You sue and you win. And then you set law, then you set precedent.
Right.
So those are kind of my big takeaways kind of after the fact. And so as much of a blow as it was, I still think, the women have such bargaining power going into their next collective bargaining agreement, their negotiations. It's not going to be the big $67 million payout that they saw in this case, but, my take is that they're going to get paid,
Right.
And I think they're going to get paid, and I think they're going to set up future generations, for even more success.
That's a really good way of looking at it because I think all of us we had talked a little bit about it because we were confused over the fact that the judge had said that the women made more than the men.
Right,
Therefore, that's why they shouldn't get equal pay. But you're like, but they won 4 championships.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's also like, right, because the nuances of the suit is that the only thing the judges considered at that point was this 2015 to 2019 period. So within those 4 years, and based on the pay structures of the two, the women did average more money per game. Again, you take away from the fact that the only reason that they made that much more money was because they had to win every single thing
Right.
they did.
Yep.
And then
The
you get
hustle.
into the judge ignoring the imbalance in negotiation. And my friend Carrie Ann said it best when she was like, if you're in a baseball stadium and someone's in the parking lot, another person's on first base, you're not starting from the same point in negotiations. So that's where the women were. The women have been in the parking lot for decades. The men are already on base. They already got their warm-ups on. Everything's happening, right? And so that's something the judge didn't consider that I think maybe on appeal eventually will get looked at. But either way, I still think that the women have, they'll make huge strides in their collective bargaining agreement next process.
Do you think, Kelsey, too, then, like, if that happens in that ideal scenario, they're able to appeal because they create very similar collective bargaining agreements with the men's team? Do you see that also then sort of being this almost like template for other women's sports, WNBA and whatnot, to also kind of follow in those footsteps?
I think so. I mean, it's the WNBA and the NBA are different just because they are these private leagues, right? This is U.S. soccer. They're getting, they're this, they're an they get their power from the, Olympic governance or whatever, forget the language. And so I have said I don't think there's any other place in the world that this lawsuit could happen. You have the players who have such personality. You have the fact that the women are just so much more successful than the men. And then you have the laws of the United States, the Equal Pay Act and Title VII, that exist for something like this. So you are able because it's U.S. soccer, because both men and the women are employed by U.S. soccer, you have this ability to get this lawsuit. You won't necessarily have that in the NBA and WNBA because they're privately owned and it's structured a bit different. But, it's something that, could possibly be seen across the board in other, men's and women's sports, with at least U.S. national teams. So, but I think that the terms in it, I mean, I'll look to the new WNBA's collective bargaining agreement as probably the template for the most modern women's sports contract for elite athletes going forward. I mean, they really did a lot. But in terms of the fight for equality in general for just women, I mean, this is going to be something that if they win and if they get it, it's not just going to apply to women in sports. It's going to apply to other areas of the world or of the United States and of the law.
Right.
Do you think that, I mean, I know the major players were thinking of it in the soccer world, but do you think that they are now understanding like that it's a countrywide, a states-wide court decision?
Yeah, no, they know. They know for sure because they could have settled. There was numbers offered to them. They could have made money. They're all making money other ways. They're all endorsed, this and that. They know what's at stake, and they know that it's setting up women, not just in the soccer world, but it's this fight for. There is no difference between what we are doing and what they are doing out in the field. And not only that, we're having to work twice as hard to even get considered, being paid the same. And I know that they're fully aware that that's women everywhere. I know probably every single one of us feels the same way at many times. So yeah, they know what's at stake for sure. Just like the 99ers did, these women do too.
So what do you think is the best next step for them, like with this appeal? I mean, the way, and maybe I'm confused, but the way it sounds like maybe it's better not to do the appeal based on whatever comes out of the CBA, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they can't, because the summary judgment didn't dismiss the entire case, they couldn't technically appeal yet. So what they did was they filed a motion that said, Judge, may you please mark like this part of the case final. So that we can appeal it now.
Got it.
We'll try the other two stuff, the Title VII stuff as it relates to the travel. We'll try that separately, at the scheduled date, which is now September, I believe. Yeah. We'll keep that, but mark the rest of this final for judgment so that we can appeal it. That hasn't been ruled on yet, so we don't know if that's going to happen. If that doesn't happen, then they'll have to wait until after the trial to even appeal anything.
Got it.
And it's a long process. So in terms of next best steps, I do think that they'll go. I think they'll go as far as they possibly can. You know, there's talks of settlement, but that's not going to happen quickly either. So, you know, I think they're going to keep taking this as far as they can until they get an offer from U.S. Soccer, and you know, and then you know that's settled, and then 2021 they get to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement. So, you know, it's not they've got a lot of power for sure.
So what's going to come first, equal pay or Megan's retirement?
Oh no.
Ooh, well, Megan's young, right?
34, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know the longevity
she can't be, you know, done up by Sue, who's almost 40 and still playing, right?
True.
True.
I think she'll play a little bit longer, you know, at least at the club level. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to put it over or under on that, but I'm hoping for equal pay, obviously.
Yeah, right.
That would definitely be that's the goal.
For sure.
Amazing. So you touched a little bit about on the WNBA CBA, and this may not be so legal, but I'm wondering how, you know, what your thoughts are on this cutting down of the roster. So players can be paid. Is there anything legal there? I don't know. This seems like it's a fine line or something that was kind of, you didn't read the fine print.
Right. I mean, they have to, you know, I haven't looked at the new CBA in terms of if there's any issues with that, but you know, they need to have a certain number of people on their roster going into the, you know, any potential season. And, you know, I think COVID changes a lot, you know, that there's a lot of provisions and a lot of things that kind of mixes out. So legally, I don't know that it's so much of an issue. It's just kind of horrible for some of the players who won't even get a shot, you know? It's just so unfortunate. And it's across the board in just everything in life in general right now. It's just, there's so many disappointments. But for the players and, you know, the later draftees, it's tough. Like this is just it's just not the year.
I know. I mean, I thought it's a great effort that the commissioner is saying, look, we're going to pay starting in June players, even though we don't know if we're going to have a season, we still want that.
Right.
And to make concessions for that, you know, we need you to bring your roster down to 12, which I'm like, a lot of those young drafts.
Are they not? I mean, and I know they have to have a certain number anyway for a regular season. Is it 12? I'm not entirely
I think it's
sure.
12.
Yeah. So I mean, they have to. They just normally would have the process of training camp where they can evaluate these players.
Yeah.
And, you know, some teams with how much some of the players are making under the new CBA, like I don't even know that they have the cap space to fit 12 people on their team. You know.
True.
There's, you know, I know there's people who deep dive into that, but that was something I read somewhere. So it's interesting and it's unfortunate, but it's also at the same time, like, you know, agree with that Kathy and the league, you know, getting something going is, I think, will be a good thing. If it's safe, that
totally. I know we keep saying that. We're just like, we'd love for it, but if it's safe and the provisions that you have, protocols that they have to put on foreplay is just like insane. Like one person touch the ball, mark the ball. If you touch it, someone else. I mean,
wipe it down, take your temperature.
It's like, okay, golf, baseball, tennis. I could see, you know, bowling, cornhole. You know, there's certain sports, but like, I don't know about basketball so much. A lot of passing of the ball in that. Unless, you know what? If you were, this is like time for a Kobe Bryant, you know, never pass the ball and
take it. Take it to the hoop.
take it.
So
Sue Bird's not going to do well with that. All she does is pass, you know, she dish those dimes. So
true. Okay. So one other, topic that I thought was, so I read about this a while back now, but the Zion Williamson lawsuit. Okay. I find this to be fascinating. This is like, also dabbles into how the NCAA has been changing up some of those rules, although I don't think those go into effect till like 2023. But there's always been those discussions about the players making money off of their own likeness versus the NCAA taking that advantage and what have you. So this story about Zion Williamson kind of fell in between him declaring to the NBA and him still like being part of the NCAA. There's like this weird like middle ground. So what happened was his agent, before he declared, he signed with them, and I believe her name is Gloria, and said she went out and tried to get the sponsorships. And then once he did declare, he decided to no longer work with her and got a new agent. And she's suing, saying, hey, I spent time, money, efforts, marketing dollars to go and find these sponsors for you. You signed with me. You owe me all this back pay plus any potential earnings that I have been, that could have happened with this partnership. And he's trying to countersue now, saying, no, well, I want to say North Carolina. I haven't looked at it in a while, saying that, no, you were supposed to let me know that if I were to drop you, then I would have these conditions. And because you didn't give me, that understanding, I don't owe you anything. That's on you. So it's kind of like, it's very empire, it's very like all these pieces, but it's fascinating. This kind of stuff fascinates me with agents and, NCAA and new players. What do you have any insights, or what can you tell us more about this to help us unpack it?
Yeah, I mean, so just going off based off what you said, obviously the players are not allowed to receive certain benefits while they're playing college basketball. Mm-hmm. We all know that happens, right? Mm-hmm. It happens under the table. You have these new documentaries out, this team that came out, and it's just been known that this happens. So mm-hmm. obviously Zion being, just highly touted and, highly skilled player would be sought after. Yeah. And so he signed this agreement, I guess, with, I think it's Gina Ford or Gloria Ford.
Gina Ford. Gina Ford.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He signed it with her, and it was supposed to be for 5 years, right? And she would go out and get his sponsorships, Mercedes-Benz, mm-hmm. this and that. He would be represented by CAA for his like actual contract with the league.
Yes.
But this would be, her job.
Right.
And he obviously decided that he didn't want to do that. He wanted to go with CAA. Mm-hmm. And so there's 2 lawsuits. There's one in Florida and there's one in North Carolina. The North Carolina one is him versus her, basically saying that he doesn't owe her anything and that, there's no breach of contract. And she, countersued saying that, it's a breach of contract, breach of implied duty of good faith fair dealing, mm-hmm. And essentially that, he's got to pay, and vice versa. She filed versus him mm-hmm. in Florida, and for that $100 million of what she would have made, she would have, I think, made 5 or 15% of anything within those 5 years.
Right.
The crazy stuff is kind of where there's this thing called the Uniform Athlete Agent Act, right? Mm-hmm. Which in the contract, if a player is still eligible to play for the NCAA, there has to be this UAAA clause. And this clause has to let them know that this is a warning, like blah, blah, blah. Like there's certain things that need to be in it. And so if this contract didn't have it, he's arguing it's not valid then because he was still a player and he was still eligible to play in the NCAA. In turn, she's come back and put in these requests for admissions, basically saying, your family got benefits, your family took gifts, your family did this and that. So, he's arguing I was still eligible for the NCAA and all this stuff, the UAA should have been in there. And she's like, okay, great. If that's the case, then did you receive benefits? Did you receive this? Did you receive that? Because then he's in deep, trouble. What?
Right.
And then you open up the gate and the doors to the NCAA, to Duke, to what they know. So, and just kind of by way of just summary, requests for admissions are something that you would send to the other side, and they would deny them, and they are under oath. You have to swear,
Interesting.
under oath on them. So, she's kind of put him in a spot to say, if he answers no to those things, and that's true, well, then he didn't need this UAA clause in his contract, and therefore it's valid. If he answers no to those things and it's not true, then he's committing perjury. If he answers yes, then a lot of more people are in trouble. So it is really interesting. It is empire-y.
Right.
And I don't know how much more is going to come out about it, because I think they might settle, because a lot of people could be at risk.
Right. Well, I mean, although it is frowned upon to take the gifts, it's not law, right? It's not a legal thing they don't sign anything saying they can't. It's just one of those like gentleman's agreement, or am I wrong?
No, well, for the players, I mean, that any eligibility that they would have would be lost. And it is there's certain federal laws that they would be violating, not the player, but these agents, these coaches, these managers. They're violate the same way with the guy from the scheme that they arrested him for violating a bunch of federal laws. I have thoughts on that in of itself, but they exist for better or for worse. They exist and they're out there. So yeah.
Okay. Because I was thinking if Zion just came out and said, yeah, I did take this, I'm no longer with NCAA.
He would be good.
Yeah,
he would be fine. But a lot of other people would be up a creek for sure. Yeah, including Duke.
Coach K.
We don't want, And guess what? It happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It happens everywhere. That's the part, and I write on a number of different things. And one of them is being, college athlete pay and compensation. And there's just no other area in the world, in the workforce, where you can make so much money off of somebody else's work and free labor and not have to compensate them. It doesn't exist. And it also doesn't exist for any other student, right? You could be in a theater program, you could be biology, this and that. You don't have restrictions on when you can transfer. You don't have restrictions on jobs you can perform. And so, someone says like the NCAA is a cartel. They have a lot of control. They spend a lot of money lobbying to Congress. And every time it's gone to court, they've been found to be violating federal antitrust law. Yeah. So now they're asking for exemptions because it turns out they're violating law every time someone challenges them on it.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Kendall.
I was just gonna say, and now we have states that are making the laws that college kids can benefit off their likeness. How is that gonna how is that going to change with the NCAA? Like, are they battling that? How does that even?
Yeah. Oh, yes. They're battling. I mean, they're battling it tooth and nail. And states are the ones that actually forced the NCAA to even take action. I put that in quotes because they're not really doing anything. They're kind of having really good PR people wording things in ways that makes it seem like they are while they're lobbying Congress, for all of these exemptions. And I quite honestly think states need to just keep pressing forward and doing, if you can have, there's always a take. It's like, oh, people argue you can't have all these states having different laws related to pay for players, this and that. You have all these states having different laws for everything, employment, every single area of law, all states differ. And guess what? It all works out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's just, an excuse. I think the states should keep pressing forward. Some states have, different provisions than other in terms of like the percentage and what they would make and how it would work out. But now Congress is getting involved, and the NCAA is spending a lot of money to make sure that their multi-billion-dollar industry isn't impacted.
And I'm surprised too, because we had on another sports writer, and she covers men's basketball, college, a high school and college ball. And we were discussing how many people have declared right out of high school to go into G League, even to, just to go into G League. And that's something that's been formed by the by the NBA, which is literally taking taking it out of the NCAA. How aren't they supposed to be like kind of friendly with one another? I would seem that this is like a hostile move by the NBA.
I mean, at the end of the day, they see money to be made, right? And you have these players. There's options, right? So sometimes because of the one and done rule, because of the rule that that you have to play a year of college, it was essentially forcing these players to go to college when they maybe just wanted to try to go right to the league. But you have options now. You can play overseas. You can play in the G League. Got the new PC league that's going to start up, and you have opportunities to make money and to also get an education. And so, Jay Billis he says it best. He's like, listen, college basketball isn't going to not be great, right? Like it's college basketball. There's something to it. The camaraderie and playing in college is an outstanding experience. It's fantastic. It's some of the best times of people's lives. But it might not be the greatest basketball ever for if the NCAA doesn't change and adapt, because you have a lot of people, a lot of young kids who can't, their families are struggling, right? You also look at the socioeconomic impact of who suffers, right? Who's taking money. It's probably not, Mr. whatever his name out in the suburbs with rich parents who can afford all this stuff. It's probably a kid from somewhere whose family is struggling, and these benefits help his family, his or her family. And so, we don't talk about that enough. But it's true. It's super important.
It's true. We have talked to players in the past that are like, they've had these talents that they've been able to use to then provide. And that has been an important narrative for them.
Right. And the NCAA talks about, the majority of our athletes, most of them go pro in something other than sports. So you're literally taking away the only time in their lives where they could actually make money off of sport.
Yep.
That's what you're taking away. If most of them don't play professionally, this is the only time that they actually could make money off of sport. And, people also talk, oh, well, this will take away from, women's sports and this and that. Like, you're totally discounting women and the and the marketability of women, I'm sorry, but even at local, smaller school levels, Joe Flo over there, the car dealership really likes the softball team and likes one kid. He's going to want to pay for that, pay that girl money. Like, women we're a target market for buying. So I don't know why we're not a target market.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh God.
For everything else.
So true.
So,
so true.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
Well, I always say follow the money. That's normally where you're going to find out why anything is happening.
Be a lawyer.
Telling you. It is my go-to. And when you can't make sense of it all, I just say, hey, you know what? Follow the money.
Follow the money. You'll find the answer for sure.
It's like a toucan Sam knows. They're going to find you right to the dollars. And that's where everything is at. Kelsey, it has been a supreme joy.
Super cool. Yeah.
To learn more about
educational.
You. And no, seriously, like this is so like fantastic to listen to, like learning more about just the legal part of sports and the business of sports. And to your point, as we started to talk about how much sports is integrated with the bigger fabric of our world, our country, our culture, and why, we are so drawn to it, because it's not just about what's on the court. It's about, think about what you said about the impact that this lawsuit can do. It will change the law.
And I think that's what people, I appreciate you saying that. I think that's what people, I find the law incredibly boring for the most part, right? Like, I don't like to read a lot of the stuff. I don't like to listen to a lot of it. And so I know that other people must also feel that same way. So I try to make things like put them into perspective of what actually people care about. Right. And for the most part, that's the bigger story, or that's kind of how it could impact them. And it, like you said, it's also important and educational to know these things and, have an argument, because when people go around chanting equal pay, it's great. It's perfect. I love it. Great marketing, great PR. And it's heartwarming to see that globally. But like, also let's understand what this fully means, and let's figure out ways to practically actually make change too,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. And hopefully, there's some men listening to this and they can maybe find an argument to support.
Yeah.
If you're out there.
Turn the volume up, man.
Right.
We want you to win.
We really do.
We're supporting you to support us. Thanks. Kelsey, where can our audience find your work? Where can they follow you? What are all your handles? Tell us where you're at.
Ktrain_11 for Twitter and Ktrain11 on Instagram. And, I write for a bunch of different sites, Equalizer Soccer. I do a lot of stuff with the U.S. Women's National Team for them. Mediate, Calling Game podcast. I also just started a new sports law podcast called Turns Out. And that'll be like 9-10 minutes kind of overview of stuff that is happening that concerns women for the most part, with a fellow lawyer of mine. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and just out there on Twitter for sure, tweeting all day long.
Yep.
You got plenty on. Yeah, you sound like your Google search is long and wide. So that, as I always say, I find everything about people on the internet. So you're on point. So we will also have this in our show notes, so you guys can have links to actually some of the sites that you talked about. I highly recommend following Kelsey on Twitter. It's
not just sports and law stuff too.
No.
Sometimes it's memes, and sometimes I make jokes.
You were drinking coffee the other day randomly.
Right.
It might have been a TBT. I don't know.
We don't know. It's very unclear, but it's always different,
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's an engagement mill.
Right.
Say of Kelsey.
Yep.
Kelsey, thank you again so much.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Let's continue to keep our connection, and anytime you want to come back, or if we can invite you.
Yes, please.
I'm sure there's going to be some legal something happening, especially with now coronavirus and pandemics being part of our tapestry of sports. So we would love to have you back anytime, and we'll just keep following you and keep in touch. But thank you so much for being part of the Hoops Talk on the Women's Crush Wednesday segment.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Appreciate it.
And we are back. Oh my God. How amazing was that, Kelsey Trainor?
My brain grew.
Oh, seriously? I love that. I know. I feel that stuff to me is fascinating. I love listening to all that legal.
Especially about the U.S. women's team.
Yeah, that was interesting. The silver lining to it, right?
She definitely brought some hope back into the picture that I had totally lost, and I feel like probably everybody had lost.
Yeah, no, that perspective is really great, and it's very knowledgeable. And to her point, knowing how to set up the argument as part of the discussion, I feel like I could go out now and turn some people's minds as to why this is important. I think they're changing law.
Gonna Elwood's
histories,
right?
Elwood. I love it.
Oh, anyone get into Harvard?
I concur.
I love it. So I'm glad she was able to be part of our Women Crush Wednesday, and we'll have all those links on our show notes so you guys can get in touch with her. Definitely follow her on Twitter. She's a really great. Like she said, beyond sports and the legal stuff, she does have some fun. She fucks around. On Twitter. So quickly, we're going to just move into a couple of topics we wanted to go over for the sports in the age of coronavirus. One is Maya Moore was selected as a finalist for ESPN Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award. I thought this was great news. One, because we had covered Maya Moore when the New York Times piece came out about how she decided to defer season because she was working on a case for a young man. I believe his last name is Irons. He had been arrested for attempted burglary, I believe, and she was fighting for social justice with his case. So she actually was at the prime of her game and decided to use her platform to take on this case as a part of, the systemic issues and challenges that people of color have, the injustices, when it comes to the court justice and sentencing. And so she is one of the finalists. I think that couldn't pick a better, because we're talking about, I mean, Maya Moore is consistently chosen as the favorite players of a lot of elite athletes. And the fact that she was at the height of her play, her peak performance, and she was like, she did not feel in her heart that she could play, knowing that there was this injustice happening in the world, and so she took on the system. She worked with the imprisoned young man, and really, took on the being that voice and using her platform. So I think it's great. I look forward to seeing that. I think that's going to come on. Let's see here, June 21st on ESPN. They're going to have the ceremony. So yeah, I know Karen, you and I talked about this one.
Yeah. And also too, just even the other athletic finalists in here, like the stories they're
compelling.
Pretty great. And I love it when athletes do this. I love anyone with like celebrity or reach who are like using their platform to help those who need it. And I mean, people will say what they'll say about Kim Kardashian and what she's potentially using hers for, but I mean, she's helping folks too. So
hey, she's helping social justice and your waist trainer. I mean,
and your detox tea.
Right.
She's pooping her pants while she does it.
Yeah.
Wash your hands and your ass.
You need to be well supported when you're going into court. What can you say? And nothing like a good waist trainer to help you when you're doing your closing arguments.
Yes.
So kudos to her. Moving on, the last thing we want to talk about, because we are always like ready to throw fire at this. Fire, right? Like on Pier 45 right now. The NBA is in exploratory talks with Disney World for the season to start up in July, deep in the heart of Florida. Why? Okay, isn't Florida?
Because it's Florida. Yeah, because it's Florida, and they'll do anything for money.
Florida is open. I got friends in Florida that are like sending me pictures. They're out at bars. Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody's doing anything. They
Texas too,
care.
right? Because my family in Houston, they're all bowling, eating out at restaurants, getting their nails done.
And Texas has the largest increase of cases that have popped up too. So you're doing great, guys. Keep doing it.
Yeah, I think the owner of the Houston Rockets was on CNN, and he was like, we want to open up because sports is really important, and people need us, and the players want to play. And I'm just like, dude, okay, so let me get this straight. You're gonna be in your mansion, sitting back, all like with your quarantine self, watching these players go out and because they want to. They've
people
all said they want
us.
to. And all the people that are cleaning everything. We've had this, like,
slave owners say their slaves want to pick the fields. You know what I mean?
They're doing a service. Yeah.
Because people need our entertainment. Listen, I've got Netflix, Hulu, you name it. I've got every streaming device.
What's your gaming device?
I bought a PlayStation. We have movies. We have music. We have the internet. We have Zooming. We've got board games. We've got TikTok. We've got Twitter. We have plenty of entertainment. What people need is money, jobs, and food.
Yeah.
We don't need some sweaty players running around getting COVID.
No, I totally agree. We have yet to even touch the below the surface of how much shit we have to entertain us. Like, we can never get to the bottom of an Instagram scrolling. Have you ever reached the bottom?
No.
Right. There's no bottom.
There's not one day where I'm like search everything on the internet. Right? What else is there to do?
Absolutely nothing. There is so much.
I'm just so annoyed.
Learn another language. I don't know.
Learn a skill. I'm just so annoyed with people who are like, well, I'm bored with the pandemic, so it must not be anymore. Like, no, just because you're bored
Just because
doesn't
you're
mean
bored.
that it's not.
Well, that
out
was the
there.
I think that was the other thing that the Houston Rocket owners was saying. He was like, well, they haven't had people haven't had sports so much, and so hence you see a lot of these marches and a lot of these protests. So, it's because they need this entertainment to like release. And I'm like,
That's what the media
bro,
gets for fucking
They're
promoting
literally
that shit.
Wow.
protesting because they can't get haircuts and Baskin
Yeah.
Robbins. Like,
No.
give me a break.
They're protesting because they're inconvenienced of the things that they want to do, but they are not the ones that are going to go out there and bag your groceries and deliver
No.
your DoorDash and wipe
No.
down your seats and have to try to serve you while keeping social distancing. Okay, those are not the people. Like, if I understand when people are like, look, I need to work, and to work I need to go, and I need to be at the McDonald's behind the counter and try to keep myself safe.
Mm-hmm.
Not if you're like, well, I need to eat in the McDonald's, because it's not the same experience. No, two different people.
No. Karen
I
just
want
got
that McDonald's dining experience.
Karen just got sick of her cooking because she doesn't know how to use spices.
Right.
Thank you.
And also, they don't know
Thank
what no means. Like, I think a lot of Americans are so like, I'm free when I wake up. I woke up in a free country. They don't know anything like that, of being told they can't do something, and suddenly now you feel the plight of everyone else.
All this goddamn, these are my freedoms to go out and do whatever. Well, you know what? I've decided I'm not going to drive in the lanes anymore, because it's my freedom
I
to
like
go
this.
and go wherever the fuck I want to drive.
I like this.
I don't have to give a shit about your safety in the lane next to me and your safety in that lane next to me.
Hey,
fuck it. I'm just going to go wherever.
You know what? They're not arresting people. They're not going into jail. It's my freedom to slap a bitch with no mask on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
With a glove.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Always
Exactly.
with the glove. Always with the glove. Yeah. Okay. We all love sports. We want sports to come back because we love sports. We cover sports. We work in sports. We are fans of sports. In addition, we want it to be done safe, right? Because we don't want people we don't need another Rudy Gobert situation, right? We want it to be safe.
Rudy.
And you also want to be able to have the people that work it be safe, right? That's important.
Yeah,
and
because they don't have a choice sometimes.
And you want them to get paid because they need to get paid. The economy is what it is. But it's just like, let's think of the things that can't, like, basketball to me is not one that can come back. It just,
it's way too late.
Right.
But the thing is like, the protocols that they have put in place. So this weekend, the match is gonna be on, right? It's that charity golf game between Tiger Woods and Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Mickelson, right? And it's for charity, so what have you. But can you just imagine the protocols? Like, there's 4 people and 18 holes, I think, in so that is a situation where you're like, okay, managing the risks to me seems like a doable thing with the protocols that we have in place, with the social physical distancing, with the washing the hands and the mask. That is something, you're out in the open. You may not need as big a staff.
Yep.
You're gonna have to carry your own clubs. Sorry,
you're not rubbing up on guys. Trying to back in. And
exactly. And you could probably have like maybe a few cameramen that are stationed far enough away from each other,
or a drone. Even you don't even need a person.
The sports announcers can be watching it on a screen in their own home. I don't know, but I do think that there's definitely ways where something like that can have those protocols. There are tennis matches potentially could have. I mean, even though the thing that is problematic is the spitting of that's where the virus is said to be carried, is more in your spit and when you're talking, right? So there are like protocols, but when you think about a contact sport, something like basketball, and you think about even football, because I don't care what they say. One thing
Football's
for sure,
contact. I'm sorry.
Let me tell you, football is going to happen. I'll tell you right now, I'll put money on it, because they don't give a fuck about their players.
Slave owners, they don't
not at all. They're like,
look who they bow down to, too.
Exactly. Let's be honest. Yeah, exactly. Which, as a matter of fact, I was just one of the Pac-12 commissioner was saying that he felt that students were safer on campus than they were
I saw that.
not being on campus. And you're just like, well, it stems from that type of mentality, again, following the money.
Right.
So I just don't think that you're going to have a sport like basketball or football. Baseball, maybe.
Could see baseball. I could see
Maybe,
how, but dugout though, that would be weak. Like,
Yeah.
Just be
packed.
fewer people in the dugout.
Yeah, because like you don't just think about like you getting it, but if you are asymptomatic and then you go out, I don't know. There's just like a lot of things there, but anything where you're like in a team setting of that nature, I just don't. Just stop. Just
Right.
put it on hold. And it breaks my heart because we love basketball. We love WNBA. We were so looking forward to getting all the basketball, everything.
And the WNBA season's so short anyway. It's never enough. That it's going to be skipped over because NBA needs to start in July or August. Like, no.
Right.
I just
I don't understand. Like, we're already coming into June when the finals would normally be going on.
Be done.
So they already said it's going to be until mid-July that this would possibly happen. And then how long is that going to take? Another month? And then
it's a month and a half for
August,
fucking NBA finals.
and then they have isn't the draft, or they start their season in October.
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to work?
I don't know.
Call it. And it doesn't help though that you have like all these superstars who are like, yeah, let's bring it back. Like,
baseball survived the strike in the 90s, like, and canceled the rest of the season. Like, this could be fine. Like, it's gonna be fine.
Right. Just call it and focus on making next season so amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because then now it's all built up, right? Now it's like, oh God, yes, next season's here. What could have been last season? I really want to spend my money to go and see. I haven't been able to go to a game. I want to spend my money. I want to go to this game.
Yeah.
Like, just what's another 2 months? Like, just call
I agree with you. But at the end of the day, you got to follow the money. And I think Adam Silver is stalling for time, bless his heart, because he's like, he knows what's right.
Yeah, but he's got to deal with everybody
He's got
else.
pressure. He's got pressure from certain players. He's got pressure from owners. He's got so much pressure, and bless his heart, I think that he's trying, and I think he's doing as much stalling technique as he can.
Yeah, it's like when you don't get your homework done, you keep telling your teacher a new excuse. Oh, so maybe Disneyland.
Yeah.
Disney World. You keep getting asked out on a date, and you're like, oh, yeah, let me check my schedule. And then, oh, wait, let me check my schedule.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, I got to check my schedule again.
He's trying to ghost everyone.
Yeah, basically.
You should just fake COVID and then like quarantine himself for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you just be in quarantine. Sorry. But yeah. Well, that's all we got time for today. I think we just hope that everybody stays safe, please, wash your hands, wash your ass, all that good stuff. Wash all this stuff. Again, thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you subscribe and review. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the ones I mentioned at the top of the show. Follow us on our social handles, Twitter. We're on Instagram and Twitter at The Hoops Talking, and YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube. That's our fun new platform that we're
see what we look like.
Yeah. And then TikTok. I got my first TikTok out.
I love it.
Intern approved. So, make sure you do that. Thank you again to Kelsey Trainor for being on the show on our Women Crush Wednesday.
Thanks,
we'll put all of the links, all her beautiful links and everything, so that you can be in contact with her. Other than that, now that we're having summer heat, we see a fire in San Francisco. Karen, how do you want to keep it? Want to keep it sweaty and petty. Ooh, 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 ooh. We out.